Good evening and welcome to the Holliston School Committee's May 6th, 2021 open session meeting. It is 7:01. I am calling this meeting to order. We are coming back in from executive session. At this time, before I open the public hearing, I would like to take a moment of silence for our neighbor, Michaela Miller, who tragically has lost her life, for her family and her friends and all those who are suffering. I want to offer a moment of silence for all of them. Thank you. Tonight we have our public hearing on the school committee proposed budget, which will be going to town meeting on Monday, May 10th. So this evening, as part of state law, the school committee is required to hold a hearing. That is, we hear from the public about the budget proposed. So this evening, I just want to ask that people, I want all of you to be able to ask your questions and just want to make sure that everyone is heard. You may not have a question, you may have a comment. If you have a question, I will certainly direct it to the person I think is most appropriate to answer it. Most likely will be the superintendent, the business manager, or the budget subcommittee, who is made up of Ms. Koshin, Mr. Morton, and Ms. Hanstead. At this time, it is 7:02. I am opening the public hearing. First up, I see Ms. Thomas.
Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. My name is Alicia Thomas. I'm a diverse Holliston member, and I'm a parent of 3 school-age children. And first, I just want to say thank you to teachers, school committee, administration for your dedication to our kids during what has been one of the most challenging years ever in history. I'm here to voice my support for fully funding an inclusive, equitable, emotionally and physically safe school system. And this includes, for me, the proposed social emotional learning and equity position, and also a fair contract for our teachers. What teachers have accomplished this year is nothing short of heroic. And at Diverse Holliston, we really see the social emotional learning and equity position as supporting and building out the amazing work that the teachers have already done and have been doing. And as our children head back to school in the fall, wherever they're coming from, remote learning or in-person or homeschooling, which is what my kids have been doing, and they're going back now, I'm most concerned about everyone's social and emotional well-being during this transition. Just from the individual and collective trauma that students bring back to school with them as a result of this pandemic, the ongoing inequities that have created and worsened the traumas. This creates this really unique challenge that needs to be met with fully funded, comprehensive change. And I think we have to fully support a strong focus on social emotional learning and equity. These are tools to support the healing process for everybody. And this also includes paying our teachers fairly for their tireless work in the face of this.
For a moment, you might be frozen. Alicia, I think you're freezing up. Maybe turn your video off.
Of the nurturing and creation of students who are prepared to enter the world and think critically and engage in equity directly and make our community a fairer and more welcoming one. And I think the cost of not doing so, not doing everything we can, including allocating resources to realize this picture, is just simply too great. So I'm just here to say, let's pay our teachers, and let's also create this social emotional learning equity position that supports those teachers and their heroic efforts to make our schools a welcoming and inclusive place that turns out fully engaged, prepared community members. And that's it.
Thank you. And Alicia, can you just, and for everyone else who speaks, can you please just give us your address for the record, please?
Oh, sure. Yes. I'm sorry. At 468 Central Street.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.
Nice to see you.
You
Mrs.
too.
Fitzgerald.
Hi, sorry, I'm trying to get the rest of my house to be quiet. Hi, this is Sarah Fitzgerald. I'm at 3 Quail Run. And yes, to start off, again, I'm going to echo some of what Alicia said. We really want to wish the teachers and staff a happy Teacher Appreciation Week. We're just ever so grateful for all of the efforts, just a tremendous amount of effort this year. You were all able to pivot and change course so many times. So just thank you for being there for your students and your families. But as a member of the Holliston community, diverse Holliston, parent of 3 children who attend Holliston schools and president of the Holliston PTO, I also wanted to voice my support for the funding of the social and emotional learning and diversity, equity, inclusion position, as well as training for staff and the professional development to help promote social and emotional support, equity, and social justice in our schools. I just think it's such a crucial time to commit the town's resources to these efforts. The past year has been extraordinarily challenging for teachers, administrators, students, and families alike. So now that we're back to school with many students attending full-time and in person, we need to address the whole host of issues from learning loss to rebuilding friendships, sense of community, as well as ongoing social issues that are impacting our schools and really the whole nation. So I just can't state enough. You know, I've been helping a little bit at the middle school with their lunches, which is just a fascinating place to be sometimes. And, you know, I see the kids and they're out there and they are navigating their way. And I know that the teachers are out there really helping them as well. But I really see that the social emotional, the DEI position could really be a good support for our teachers. I think we ask them to do an awful lot. And I think in the next coming months and years, there's going to be a lot that they are asked to do. And I think it would be important to support the teachers with this type of, give them the tools and the resources that they can turn to. So I think that's really all I have to say, but thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brumbach?
Hi, my name is Chris Brumbach. I live at 93 Robert Road in Holliston. I wanted to speak tonight as a member of the Social Justice Committee of Temple Beth Torah here in Holliston. We are in support of funding and maintaining the position of Director of Social Emotional Learning and Equity in this year's school budget. As a former central office school administrator, I'm aware of the uncertain funding issues faced by our district, complicated by the negotiation of the teacher contract. In a budget with very little fat, it may be hard to preserve this position should it become necessary to trim the budget to meet contractual obligations. Despite this possibility, we also support the teachers in their seeking of a fair contract and hope that if need be, there is a creative way to fund this new position and program here in Holliston. Despite that budget challenge, I believe that it's vital that our hardworking teachers have the central office support they need to do the teaching, student management, and mediation that they are already doing. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could provide support to those who want it or need it? Wouldn't it be important if our district showed through establishing this central office position that we as a community value equity, inclusivity, and social and emotional growth in our students? That these are central to our mission as a school district, that we want to be able to respond as well as we possibly can the next time there's a racial or anti-Semitic or other incident in town that challenges our values as educators and community members, or the next time our students with different learning styles and abilities are mistreated by their classmates. I appreciate the support this social and emotional learning and equity position and program has received from Diverse Holliston and the community and the school committee. Please know that Temple Beth Torah Social Justice Committee offers our support in any way we can to the schools in this work within our communities.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Janine? I don't know how to pronounce your name, so please, I apologize for that. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, thank you, Stacy. My name is Jane Kohuth, so that's how it's pronounced. I live at 120 Brook Street. So I'm here as a member of the Diverse Holliston Education Committee. I am also on the Temple Beth Torah Social Justice Committee. So I'm a crossover. And I think, as you already know, our groups are both here to voice support for creating and funding this new position of Director of Social Emotional Learning and Equity for Holliston, as well as supporting a fair and equitable contract for the teachers who, I just reiterating, have really gone above and beyond in their commitment to Holliston students this year. And we would really like to see both of those goals achieved. I wanted to speak also as a member of the Holliston Jewish community and as a parent of a third grade student. So my husband and I have lived in Holliston for 13 years now. And on the whole, we found it to be a very welcoming community and really a great place to live. I do feel, though, both in listening to other members of historically excluded groups in Holliston and in thinking about my own experience as a Jewish person in Holliston, that we could improve as a community in how we approach issues of bias and how we approach diversity and anti-bias in our school curriculum. My son, for instance, is in the Montessori program, and when he began school in Holliston in kindergarten, I was hopeful that he would be learning in a deeper way about the history and current reality of people of all races, abilities, genders, religions, and in particular about the backgrounds and traditions of his fellow students. And there really is a growing diverse group of students in our schools. But that really hasn't turned out to be so much the case. Instead, I found, as an example, that the Montessori Multicultural Night was operated largely without any reference at all to the actual students of different cultures in Holliston schools. And in another example, I wanted to pull out in a place where the curriculum could be reconsidered. We encountered a project about family heritage that was difficult to complete from the perspective of both a Jewish and an adoptive family, which we are. Because it focused on researching particular countries of ancestry rather than ethnic and cultural traditions, and didn't provide a path for students who may not know their family backgrounds. So as a diaspora people, Jews have had cultures that are distinct from the cultures of the majorities of the countries in which they live. So research on Ukrainian history, for instance, wouldn't tell my son about the lives and traditions of his ancestors. So we did have to work through that with his teacher, and we did have to choose a country. So it was, yeah, we did find that there wasn't really a good path for students who might come from different backgrounds. And I can imagine that this project would also be difficult for an African-American student to complete as assigned as well. And so I just wanted to pull out those kind of specific examples because I feel like that probably comes up a lot across the curriculum. Also, before COVID, I was coming into school once or twice a year to share books and talk about Jewish holidays and traditions with my son's classes to make sure that he felt represented in his classroom. And I'm happy to do that, but I know that isn't possible for all parents, and nor should it have to be. And so, I would like to make sure that could happen for all students, whether or not their parents can actively come into the school. While my son has never reported any direct anti-Semitic incidents, he was with me when I encountered a swastika drawn on a street sign near the elementary school. And he was a student at Placentino when swastikas were found on the playground. And I know I'm not the only one to feel that the follow-up to that incident didn't really address racism and anti-Semitism in a concrete way. But I've been really happy that in the past year, since I've been working with the Diverse Holliston Education Committee, that I've seen a swell of interest and commitment to anti-bias and equity work on the part of the school administration, teachers on the school committee. And I would very much like to see a Director of Social Emotional Learning and Equity position as a step toward making real change in curriculum and anti-bias work in Holliston schools. I think committing to diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools is paramount in recognizing the urgency and necessity to address inequity and understanding the longstanding and unfair barriers to accessing opportunity in our country. Having this DI position will allow us to be deliberate and ensure full integration of these practices through our hiring, curriculum, community engagement, events, and more. Finally, I think that anti-bias and anti-racist education creates a strong learning environment for all students. Research demonstrates that safe environments are a necessary aspect of effective learning at every phase of development. And being culturally competent also requires critical thinking and promotes cognitive development. And when our students experience a genuine sense of belonging, they're more inclined to thrive. So we believe the time is now for the Holliston Public Schools to develop, advance, and implement a clear and integrated district-wide social emotional learning and diversity equity plan that promotes and ingrains diversity, equity, and inclusion in student, staff member, and academic and school culture. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Jane. And we have a caller on the line. The phone number starts with 202.
Caller is muted. Not sure if the caller knows they are muted.
I don't know how to advise them to unmute. Is it *6?
I did ask them to unmute. I clicked it, but I don't know if they are able to.
I did as well, so.
Maybe they're just here to listen tonight.
It could be. I'll just give them another minute. So for the caller who's sitting in on the call, if you'd like to speak, please just unmute. And it's the caller with the phone number that starts with area code 202. Okay, I am going to take that as
Stacy, I think it's Barbara Ryan. I'm trying to get her to.
okay.
It would be great if you could just say, hello, my name is, so we know who's there.
So she's having trouble unmuting herself. She said she did *9.
*6, try that.
Okay.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yep. No. Oh, she says it's not working. I think she'll be okay. That's all right.
Well, if she's able to get it later, she could join during the public comment period of our
Okay.
our actual school committee meeting, which will be in a little while.
Okay, tell her that. Thank you.
Stacy?
Yeah.
And is there anyone else in the waiting room?
No.
Can I have a moment to say something that I think might be useful?
Sure.
Well, I'm sure everybody will want to express their appreciation and thanks for you coming tonight and sharing everything you had to say. It's not just your passion, you're also very articulate about the importance around social emotional learning and equity and social justice and the need to address all of these issues in the district. And I think that's something we all take very seriously. and really care about deeply. And I want to thank Dr. Kuska for really putting it front and center. When we began our budget year, as you know, and I think, Chris, you stated the challenge, the great challenge of trying to balance all of this, but we felt it really was critical to begin the year by having an honest assessment of where we stood and the state of the district, and try to understand what's it going to take to really right the ship, not only just after the pandemic, but after the year that we've had, observing all of, it sort of peeled the onion on all the underlying issues that were already there with systemic racism, et cetera. So I want to thank Dr. Kuska for really putting together a budget that was thoughtful and caring and focused. And in response to that, I think you all may know that the committee last week voted to approve that budget finally and formally. By the way, sorry, by way of background, I'm Ann Louise Hanstead, and I'm the budget chair. But I did want to just show you one thing, if you'll let me, Stacy, just the one slide that talks to our priorities, just to reiterate and share with you that we share your concerns. Can I do that, Stacy? I just need someone to...
You should be able to share your screen.
Hold on one sec. Let's see. Okay, desktop. Well, we'll just do that. I'm not sure I'm sharing the right thing here. So I'm just going to bring this up larger. Hopefully, is that big enough? You can see? Okay, I'm not going to go through this whole thing. It'll ultimately be up on our school committee website. But the very first slide summarizes our budget priorities and objectives. And of course, keeping the lights on and opening the doors is critical. And that's what we refer to as level services. And second to that, not second in importance, but, at the top of the list here is supporting our teachers with a new fair and equitable contract. So that's critical. We recognize everything they've done this year. They've gone above and beyond, and I don't think there's one person on this committee who doesn't want to do right by the teachers. So know that we support you in that. It's a difficult challenge, but we're optimistic and hopeful we'll be able to get there. And then the third and fourth things on this, I think, talk to exactly what you came to the table tonight to share. Your concerns about, which is not only addressing the learning loss and SEL challenges that we are experiencing in the wake of the pandemic. They're enormous. I don't want to lie to anybody. There is a lot that needs to be done. And our teachers are our partners in that. And we want to thank them for what they've done all year. And as we move forward, there's a lot more that needs to be done, from curriculum reviews and enhancement to assessing exactly where they are, and professional development and supporting the training around all of these things so that we can focus on our students. And so it's not fourth in priority, but it's sort of the sequence of how these things tie together. Conducting a long overdue district-wide effort to address the racial inequity and systemic social justice issues in education. So we share your concerns, and we're going to do everything we can to find a way to support these. And hopefully we don't have to make compromises. So that was all I wanted to share with you tonight.
Great, thank you. And I think that Barbara was able to log in. So Barbara, if you can hear me and you can unmute, just share your name and address, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Barbara Ryan, currently at 645 Washington Street in Holliston. First, I want to thank the school committee and the finance committee, Dr. Kuska, all the administrators, and certainly last but not least, our school teachers and staff who, as my friends and neighbors have said, and all of you have also been champions of, nothing shy but heroic efforts as a mom who did not call it homeschooling last spring. It was home learning. And boy, if I ever had a thought about homeschooling, it was blown out the window after about day 3. So again, my deepest appreciation, not only this week, but every day, how you've touched the lives of my 2 children and the children of our community and the future leaders of our community and country and world. My family happens to be created through adoption. My children are of Korean heritage. And so this work that will go on, which is a journey for all of us as friends and neighbors, as a community with diverse opinions, diversity of thought, and just believe so strongly in teachers. But again, this is work that's been ongoing. The work I've done through the PTO Mindshare with Dr. Kuska, Dr. Patello, who's leaving us, some of the teachers, the principals, vice principals, community members who've taken and have been champions of diversity, equity, and inclusivity, not only professional development, but also working together. Deeply appreciate the time that's been spent, and going forward would like to echo that, how important this work is towards justice and equality and equity for all, and while still living with decency and dignity and respecting all opinions at the table. So I thank you. I'm in full support of a fair contract. I'm in full support of the DEI-SEL position for all the reasons. I would just like to say I would amplify that my friends and neighbors have said. And again, we moved to this community just shy of 2 years ago, and one of the biggest reasons was the schools. My sister's an educator and is coming back from Bogota, Colombia in about a month, and has decided as well to make Holliston her permanent home. So, and as an educator, she chose Holliston when they lived here before they moved overseas because of the school district. So here's to all of you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having this public forum. And thank you for allowing me to be a member of this community of diverse Holliston and just a mom and a human being who cares a lot to be able to participate tonight. And thanks for your patience with the tech gremlin. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, Barbara. Okay. Dr. Kuska, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yes, I just wanted to thank all of the speakers tonight because you are articulating exactly why the only request I personally put on the budget this year was this position of Director of SEL and Equity. And I think you all heard me earlier on when I joined Holliston very rushedly over the summer and then helped develop a reopening plan with our committee in a very short time. The front page of that was all about equity. It doesn't always mean everybody gets the same. Equity means we reach the needs of the individuals and help them enter where they are and improve their learning process. And when we improve equity, social emotional learning improves as well. And I think one of you articulated that tonight as well. So I am passionate about making a difference for these children in this community. And the work is significant. This year has been an incredibly challenging year for many reasons that you've all cited. But every day I am grateful for how successful we've been keeping these children in school and trying to support them with their needs. This morning, I started my day at Placentino, and I was able to get into every room and greet the children as they were starting the day and the teachers, and the energy in the classrooms in all the buildings, but especially as the children were coming in today, and it was such a nice day. You could see the smiles beneath the masks and the safe environment that we've been providing. But there's still work to be done, as you know, and the older our children get, and the more they're on social media, they are feeding off of all of the fearful things that are happening in our environment throughout the state, throughout the country, and beyond. So this role is incredibly important. Yes, it is an administrative role, but the goal of this role is to truly support our teachers to help develop interventions pre-K to 12 that are aligned for social emotional learning, to help train our staff and help them understand what anti-bias and anti-racist actions mean. I personally have been working for many, many years on my own implicit bias. And half the battle, bias doesn't make you bad. Bias does not mean you are doing something wrong, but awareness of that bias is half the battle. Once you can recognize it and name it and call it what it is, then you can ensure that your experiences have created you. You're not supposed to change who you are, but if you can change how you react so that you can make sure that that implicit bias does not negatively impact our students, that is the primary goal of what we need to do better. People, if they're not taught how to understand that, don't know how to label it, don't know how to recognize it. And some of the things that come out of people's mouths are because no one ever has talked to them about it. So we have wonderful, passionate teachers, administrators, hardworking individuals that I know will be grateful for this work as well. And those difficult conversations need to happen, because if we don't start having them, nothing will change. But I am confident with this position, it's a step in the right direction. And I truly am grateful for all of you that came here today. And I'll just end very briefly with, as I left Placentino this morning, I happened to stop for coffee, my second one of the day, a lot of iced coffee lately. And as I was standing there with my mask, I always think I'm anonymous, but apparently I was recognizable. And one of our parents stopped me and said, "Dr. Kuska." And I said, "Yes, how are you?" And the parent was very grateful and thankful for the work that their children have been able to have being in school every single day this year, and just wanted me to know how happy they were with our education. I cannot take credit for this. This is a credit to the entire team, from the paraprofessionals, from the secretaries, from our bus drivers, custodians, our incredible nurses, our teachers, our administrators. I said it early on, it takes a village, and as cliche as that sounds, this village is coming together, and this position will help us to come together more. So thank you all.
Thank you. At this point, we do not have anyone else in the waiting room or logging in, so it is 7:32, and I am now closing the public hearing. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And as I shared with some of you via email, the next step is to make sure that you go to town meeting and vote the omnibus budget. So thank you, and see you Monday night at 7:30. Nice to see you.
Bye, Alicia. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
All right, and we will jump. We don't have our students this evening, so we will jump into individual comment. Does anyone from the committee have anything they want to share? Lisa?
Sorry, looking for the unmute button. I promised Diverse Holliston, because I am their liaison, that I would put in a plug for the Exploring Identity in Holliston event that I think everyone, it went out to all parents, I think, through our email system. But it's just sounds like an amazing program. And it's actually two-part. It's by Zoom, both parts. And the first part is Sunday, May 16th, and that is the playback theater performance. True Story Theater is performing this Exploring Identity in Holliston. And then Sunday, May 23rd is an active bystander workshop. Both of these run 12:30 to 3. Again, both are by Zoom, and you can register online through the link that you received. So just wanted to give them a plug. It sounds really amazing. They worked really hard to bring this to our town. It's in partnership with Aesop's Fable, the best local bookstore, my favorite. And they got a grant from the Holliston Cultural Council. So it's a really cool program. And I just want to, urge everybody to take advantage of this really good opportunity, because it talks all about, identity, and gets into these issues that we were just talking about for the last half hour. So really cool. And I hope people can participate. That's it.
I just wanted to share out that this week, well, first of all, happy Teacher Appreciation Week to all the teachers. And thank you for all that you do. This week, Aesop's Fable actually is holding an online book fair for the elementary schools. It is all online. So just go to Aesop's Fable. You don't need to have children in the system or in the school. You can certainly just purchase a book for some of the any teacher. All of the teachers have wish lists on there. There is an option if you choose Holliston PTO, they will actually deliver the books. You don't even have to have them shipped to you. So check that out. This is our only fundraiser, if you will, for elementary PTO, but it's also a chance to shower the teachers with some of their favorite presents, a good old book. So good luck to the PTO and Aesop's Fable, and thank you for doing that. Anyone else? Sin?
Can I just do a quick shout out? So my daughter's graduating this year, and so I just wanted to do a little shout out to anyone who has ever encountered or taught my daughter Jovina in any class whatsoever. I could not have gotten her this far without your support, your dedication, and mounds of patience. So I just wanted to thank you all. You know what you've done, so thank you.
Dawn?
And just to be very brief, also to echo that and thank you for supporting and inspiring all of our students daily, and for making an impact on their lives daily. And also, we are very grateful every day, but especially this week. And I also want to say we are so grateful that the kids have had the option to eat lunch outside. You go by the high school and you see music classes happening outside. They're dragging their instruments out. Sports are really in full swing. So thank you.
Please.
Gosh, it sounds redundant, but I don't have a child in the school anymore, but the many, many, many hours we spent last summer and early fall trying to plan how this year would come off. I have to be honest, I was nervous that we just wouldn't be able to make it happen despite everybody's best efforts. And yet it did happen. And that is with the grace and fortitude and commitment and dedication of our teachers. And that was huge. And even as a parent who doesn't have a kid there anymore, I was so deeply appreciative for, the 2,800 some odd students who still depend every single day on their teachers and the schools and the administrators. So thank you to everybody for really doing that. And this is, that Special Appreciation Week. So I just wanted to put that out there. I also just want to acknowledge, especially as Cynthia was saying, her daughter's graduating. I believe May 1st came upon us, and that's Commitment Day, and many of our students have made choices about where they're going to head after high school, and I want to congratulate all of them on their decisions and their whatever they're choosing to do. It's been a really hard year for you, and kudos to every one of you who made it through the process and now have something to celebrate and look forward to. Whatever it is after graduation day, congratulations.
Anybody else? Okay. Keith, do you have anything this evening? Peter, do you have anything this evening?
Yeah, I don't want to be redundant, but I'm going to be. I just want to recognize teachers and nurses and secretarial staff. We have these appreciation moments over the last couple of weeks, and the incredible effort that people have put forth to serve our kids has been remarkable. And I'm very proud of the work that they've done and all the work that they put in over the last several years in order to be prepared to rise to the occasion. So I thank them all. And secondly, I get to meet with our ESL teachers at least once a month. And they're kind of some unsung heroes within our group. Andrea Weingartner, Wendy Lucier, Carol Lyons, Pam Hrones, and Shirlene Foley all work really hard to serve some of our our most precious kids in the district and meet them where they're at as far as their language abilities and see them grow and thrive to be graduates of Holliston High. So I thank them for their work too.
Just a couple of quick things, because I think I've sent out 3 communications already this week, and people are probably sick of listening to me, but it will be my end of the week update tomorrow, as always, like clockwork. But just that have started up spring track, and it is in the works for our 7th and 8th graders, and we do have limitations, I found out, related to COVID. So the numbers are less than in a normal year. However, we are going to extend a small number of offerings to our 6th graders as well. So that information should be going out to parents, and then the students will be picked randomly through a lottery, just because we won't have enough seats for the interest. And hopefully next year we'll be able to do another team so that we could have more offerings for our students, but at least it's a step in the right direction for students. And then I did want to mention, many of you have heard me send information or read information I've sent out about the assistant superintendent search. So that will be starting Monday night, bright and sharp at 6 p.m. And I literally have been reading the people that have volunteered. I've been reading their emails today. So I believe I've finalized the list of people that have volunteered. I'm not going to be able to utilize everyone, just because the committee would get unwieldy and trying to keep it at 12. It may go to 13, but that would be the most I can really do. And I will share those names out tomorrow when I finalize that list. But I did have a number of parents, and we can't fit as many as I would like to, but I do think that we've had an incredible amount of strong candidates that would be great to add. I would love to be able to add all of them, but we would be at a number that would just make it impossible to get the work done and to move our process forward. So thank you to everyone. I'll get that list of members out tomorrow, and then the consultant will be reaching out to them to set up the times, and that will be it.
Lisa?
Just wanted to ask, how many parents did we have apply?
My last look today, because I could have gotten more, I think about half a dozen.
Oh, okay. So is it, if it's possible, if it's a really, good group of candidates, is it possible to have 2 parents instead of 1?
I will consider that, but I think that would make us up to 14. I'll talk to the consultant if he's not opposed, but it's.
Oh, I thought 2 would only bring us up to 13.
Hold on, Susan's frozen, so.
Oh, she's back.
There you are.
So how many are on the committee that are not part of the schools? I'm sorry. How many people are from outside the actual school employee? Is she frozen or not?
She might be.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I didn't. So the question is, who's on? So the committee is made up of 4 administrators, 2 central office, 1 elementary principal, 1 secondary principal, 4 educators or staff members. I didn't limit it to educators if someone else is interested. I think I'm having some instability for some reason with my internet. But 1 from each building was what I asked for. And then the other 4 would be 2 school committee members, and 2 have responded to me for that, as well as a parent and a high school student, which I did get a high school student to volunteer as well.
I agree with Lisa. Like I understand why, but the weighting is so heavily based on employees of the district, and I think this is such a critical position that there should be another parent to provide just a little bit more community input to that.
I'm not opposed, Ann Louise. Again, all of the parents that reached out, any one of them would be great. So I mean, we were fortunate to get that, but I'm not opposed to adding 1 more. And I may have to do it through just a lottery too, because it's hard to pick.
Dawn?
I again wanted to say I would really hope that we could find room for an additional parent. I think that would leave us with 1 student, 2 parents. But the other part that I wanted to just confirm is there will be an opportunity for other parent and student input. Is that correct? Because we will have, my understanding is we will have interviews. And again, if we could just let people know when, and it will be posted, and they'll, like, roughly the time frame of it will will parents and students then have an opportunity to write to the committee with input, similar to the superintendent search?
What I did was I sent out the tentative timeline because it's always a little subject to change because we're on such a tight schedule. And there's a night or two in there for a parent forum. So we would do that by Zoom, and the parents could either submit questions ahead or actually submit a question that night. And, you know, we could do something like you did, get sheets, you know, send the questions ahead of time. People could respond to that. And then if people wanted to provide feedback, I'm not opposed to that. I will mention that to the consultant would collect that, and that would be on them to kind of call that together for us. But yes, that is the intent.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. Report from subcommittees. Where is Andy? Can I start with you on the superintendent's evaluation process?
Sure. Yep. As a reminder for everybody, we pushed back the timeline somewhat just to accommodate for reopening of schools and a lot of the moving parts that were going on during April. We thought that doing all that at the same time was going to be a lot. So I think very reasonably we pushed that back. So my goal now is by the end of next week to have a conversation amongst us on the subcommittee and to get forms out to school committee members. Also during next week, having conversation around how we're going to work administrative feedback this year, just to have hopefully a little bit more robust comment from our admin team. So hopefully having that conversation next week, which I will get hopefully scheduled tomorrow, and then those forms out to the administrative team by Monday the 17th. And then obviously the goal with that is to have it all back in a timely fashion. So right now I'm thinking, and again, all this is subject to change if we have another conversation between now and then, have feedback returned by the 21st of May. And so that draft of the superintendent evaluation would begin the week of the 24th, at which point I would very quietly fade into the background as my term comes to a close, and best of luck with that. And then beyond that, I don't want to speak for the other members of the committee necessarily, but presumably that would lead to a draft being completed early June. Typically, the process that we've had in the past then includes having a sit-down meeting with the superintendent and discussing the findings of the committee, and eventually a presentation to the full committee where we read some sort of a executive summary of the overall evaluation. In the past, we read the entire evaluation. It is available for anyone who wants to read it, but reading the entire evaluation word for word fell on me for a number of years. I think we decided it was easier to have a summary, and then if anyone wants to ask for that, and a few people have in the past, they can have access to that full evaluation. So that's the timeline, and I will be in touch tomorrow with folks to see if we can get a meeting scheduled with Dr. Kuska next week to talk about how the best way we all think is, or rather what the best way we all think is to get feedback from the rest of the administrative team.
And you just remind me again, who is on the subcommittee?
It is me, it is Cynthia, and it is Dawn. I was hoping you were putting your hands up. I'm like, I'm positive it's those three, but I just want a little affirmation of that. So it's the three of us. And then Dawn and Cynthia will obviously take over after I step out.
Great. Right. Thank you for that. Lisa, communications, any update?
No, but I was thinking that we should, so we didn't do a newsletter, but I'm wondering if it would make sense, since Anne Louise prepared that slide, which I know we're about to talk about, the deck that we're about to talk about. I wonder if it would make sense to just send out some kind of, through the newsletter system, just send out a link to that so that people have it top of mind, have all the information they need to look at the budget before town meeting. So, we could just put together something that says, town meeting is May 10th or starts May 10th. And here's a link to the information that we've posted about the budget. And then if we link to our website, because it's just hard to find on the website unless you're looking for it. And I've sent the link out to people so they can see, the description that Susan put together. But now that we've talked about adding that deck, I'd love to send out a new link.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Can we just come back to that maybe after we talk about?
Yeah. So we'll do it later. It's the last thing on the agenda to review newsletter.
Okay. I'll throw something together between now and then. I'll just throw together a few sentences that we can have ready to go.
Thank you. Policy?
We have to schedule a meeting.
Okay.
I'm waiting to hear back.
Great. Anne Louise, budget?
So the only thing we wanted to do was just vote to approve the PowerPoint document so that there's a publicly available document for the community that we can post up on our website. I don't know that we need to go through it. It is, or we can, whatever you want to do.
If you want to go through it. Like, yeah, that's fine. You have access to share your screen.
Okay. Do we need to go through it to approve? We can go through it. We'll go through it.
In high level, like in Louise, high level,
really quick. So
yeah, we don't need to.
Okay, good, because that's all right. Hang on. And I'm going to apologize in advance if you hear growling. It sounds like a werewolf. It's a 1-year-old puppy, and if I let him go, he might become a werewolf and go after my 88-year-old mom. So apologies for that. Share screen. Oh, look, you're going to see yourselves. Okay, so this is a very short document that basically summarizes the school committee approved budget for FY22. And of course, if there's anything in here that the community is interested in more detail on, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, the budget subcommittee includes myself, Anne Louise Hanstead, Lisa Koshin, and Andy Morton. And it just as a matter of process, we spare the committee at large a lot of detailed discussions, digging into things to try to figure out how to create and balance our budget. And then we usually always go back to the committee at large with recommendations, but ultimately it's the full committee that votes on and determines the budget priorities and what's included and what's not. So that's just a top line. So the only slide that I do want to go into is just this first slide that summarizes our budget priorities for FY22. This was an unusual year, and typically we begin the budget process in January by focusing in on those items and strategic initiatives that line up with the goals and objectives stated in our strategic plan. We also, of course, look at the annual goals for each of the buildings, et cetera. This year, everything was turned upside down. And there was even an open debate about whether, how we should approach the year and what, if anything, could go on to a budget request. But we felt it was our obligation and that we simply couldn't.
Google Fox litter size real quick.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. We just felt we couldn't not essentially do a state of the district. Like, where do we stand and what are we going to need to right the ship after the pandemic and everything else that's happened in this extraordinary year, especially as it relates to social justice and equity, et cetera. I mean, there's just like no way to summarize all of that. But the 5 things that really became the top priorities, first and foremost, simply because we have to, is invest in our level services, maintain them. And that means open the doors, just keep the schools going as is, no changes, if you will. So that's sort of our baseline budget. And yet every year the cost of that does go up a little bit because of contractual obligations. The second thing is to support our teachers with a fair successor contract. So that's essential. We cannot open the doors without their dedication and support. And they've done yeoman's job this year working with our students and our families, et cetera. So that's a critical priority for us. Addressing all of the pandemic-related learning loss and SEL challenges, I mean, it just goes without saying that, like every school in the country, in the world, we are going to have gaps, and we need to understand them. We need to know what they are, and then we need to figure out how best to serve each and every student. And then fourth is conduct a long overdue district-wide effort to address racial inequity and systemic social justice issues in our overall education process, from curriculum to professional development, et cetera. And then finally, we do need to address some critical personnel gaps, including nurses, et cetera, some technology items, small, and infrastructure needs. So that's the only slide I'm going to go through in detail. These sort of evolve into specific investment areas, from the contractual obligations I mentioned earlier down to capital needs. Everybody can take a look at these, but these are how they break down in terms of like the categories of what we're investing in. There are some important contextual items worth noting, and assumptions that have influenced the budgeting process and constrained it. I don't have a better word for that. First and foremost, just everybody should know that going into last summer, the FY21 budget that covered this operating year that we've just been in was essentially flat versus FY20. And that was a result, an immediate result of the pandemic. We had to cut basically everything out of our requests from last year. And just to essentially hold it flat, which we were grateful for. So we're starting off behind because of that. So we kind of have to bump up the request for FY22, next year's school year, to make up for essentially 2 years in that budget process. And so it looks like a big request this year, but it's sort of compounding off of the prior year. In the face of that, we've lost nearly $1 million in school revenue associated with the pandemic. Everything from lost tuition to lunch and student activity and athletic fees. Bus revenue was down because a lot of students weren't coming to school and riding buses. The list is significant, and added up in total, it's nearly $1 million. So, while the country is seeing a recovery and the town is kind of holding steady, the schools themselves have not only faced enormous expenses related to COVID, around 1.4 million actually, but we've also lost revenue at the same time. So it's a balancing act. And I really just want to do a shout out to Mr. Boudet. He is extraordinary. He has done an amazing job trying to help balance all of this, and the town for supporting us throughout the year. We were the beneficiary of CARES money and other stimulus funding this year, and we still have a $600,000 outstanding item that we're trying to address, and we're working with the town to get support there, but there's a lot there. And then finally, I know everyone is looking forward to President Biden's stimulus plan and the funds that will find their way to Holliston. It's called the American Rescue Plan and Recovery Act, if I got that right, and ARPA. Those funds become available July 1st, and I believe about $4 million has been slated for the town of Holliston over several years. But it's not as simple as that. The stimulus funds always come with constraints and requirements. So we don't know yet what will qualify and what won't, and how they will be divvied up throughout all of the town departments and needs. Schools do not control that, so we have to wait a few months to hear more about how that will actually work. And then importantly, the successor contract with the Holliston Federation of Teachers has not yet settled, so this budget contemplates that, and we're optimistic, but it may need adjustment So that's that. Ooh, look at this. Oh God, I hate when it does that. There we go. I didn't mean for that animation to happen. So in short, the FY20 appropriation was about 35.1 million. The underlying items, just to keep the doors open, that level service budget is going to drive us up about 4.26%, and there's about another 1.3% in priority needs that are detailed in this presentation. And that represents another 460,000 on top of the fixed costs. So together, they total just over 1.9 million, and that represents a 5.57% increase in the budget, bringing the requested appropriation to, shoot, I'm not going to be able to get the whole number. Hold on, I got to move you guys out of the way. $37,098,523. So that's the total there. And then, oops, sorry. Capital, we have a modest capital request this year to address a couple of key things. Boilers at the Placentino Miller Complex and the Wi-Fi upgrade at Placentino Miller Complex as well, for a total of $81,400. I am not going to go through each of these items because they have been presented several times now, first by Dr. Kuska, then in discussion with the Finance Committee, et cetera. So anybody is welcome to pull this presentation up on their own and take a look at each of the items. And I encourage you to reach out to us if you have any questions. There's about 4 pages here that break them down. The first are those things that support the learning gaps that we are starting to see and know exist in the district, from tutors to additional literacy intervention materials. So this is a critical area. Then we have 3 different requests related to student supports. One of these you've seen before. It's the Mood Check Depression Screening and Prevention program that we've been running for about 5 years now. We believe now more than ever that's critical. And of course, our Director of SEL and Equity, which it will be a district-wide position to really address all of the training and curriculum reviews, et cetera, related to understanding how we can really improve what we're doing in the districts, stem to stern. Like, there's just not much more I can say there related to social justice and equity and the social and emotional issues related to that. And in general, coming out of the pandemic, that's going to be critical. And we needed a couple of nurses, 1.5 nurses, to really basically align with state requirements in terms of the ratio of nursing staff to students. And then we have a few technology needs. So these are in here as well, small. And then finally, that's it. So we don't really going to go through any questions tonight, but this is the budget. It will be up on the school committee website. And if you scroll down, trying to remember, there's a budget section and you can find the document archived there.
It's on the district website. You go to the About section, and then about a quarter of the way down, there is budget and capital planning, and that's where all of the budget documents are living at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay.
So do we vote to approve it, or?
No, so Keith is telling me we don't actually need to vote to approve it, so.
Just a presentation, that's all. I mean, we post presentations all the time.
Okay, super.
Item of information.
Item of information.
Just send it to me so I can post it.
I will.
Thank you.
I just don't want to click off of you guys, so give me a moment.
No.
I don't need it at this moment, but yes.
Okay. Thank you for that, Anne Louise. Okay. Those are all the subcommittees. And Dr. Kuska, do you have a COVID update that you want to?
I do. I've been saying about the pool testing and how helpful it's been. I am going to report out that we did have one more positive pool this week, and it's really useful when we get those positive pools, and then when we do our antigen testings, because it's exactly played out as it should. The nurses are able to identify almost immediately who the positive but asymptomatic person is, and then that person is able to go home, and it allows us to get back to business with the rest of the students and staff in the school. So we don't seem to be able to get our numbers up. I really wish there was some kind of campaign from the community or parents, because I think it needs to come from without at this point to increase our numbers for the rest of the year. But we're going to continue, even though we've only got about 25% participation at the high school, and it's as high
25%.
as at the high school level. It decreases as we go up. We're in the 40% range at the middle school, and I believe high 30s to 40. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I did have them, but I don't have them in front of me right now. And we're no higher than about 42% overall. I think middle school is 42% overall, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's our highest group. It's still helpful for the people that are doing it, but it's a much more useful tool when it gets to 80% or close to that. And Louise?
You know, I'm just wondering, I'm not surprised it drops down as you go up in age, if you will, but, you know, we're at a point now where walk-in clinics are readily available now for actually getting vaccinated. So it might be worthwhile, if we're not already doing it, to really kind of put some PR around that too, because if we can get them vaccinated, then hopefully the testing becomes less critical.
Yes, I spoke to this very briefly. I was on the news last night. We are in a regional collaborative with neighboring towns, and that happened through work from our nurse leader, myself, and all the surrounding towns coming together. But more importantly, Senator Spilker's office and Representative Dykema's office supported this regional collaborative. Unfortunately, it didn't get off the ground quickly enough to support educators as much as we were hoping. That was our goal, to get it in to our educators fast, but many of them are vaccinated through various ways, through volunteers and other options. And I sent the dates and times out last night. You should have gotten, and the communication went out to parents, because now we're offering the walk-in clinics. And this Saturday, we have a clinic for our grade age 16 and up population. They can make the appointment as late as tomorrow and go in on Saturday, and they'll be ready to go. There were 1,170 appointments available for the various towns in the Westboro Doubletree, I think it's at. But I did send all of those links out to families last night. And the newest news as of last night is we're very, very close to be able to offer Pfizer vaccine to 12 years and up. Don't know what happened to my light, but we are going to have that up next. And I'm thinking that we will be able to offer that regional collaborative approach, so kids get guaranteed appointments in addition to those walk-in appointments that the community can use.
Thank you. Dawn?
Just a quick question. And Susan, I don't know if you know the answer to this, and if not, maybe it's something we can look into. But has anything changed regarding your status as a close contact if you're fully vaccinated plus 2 weeks? So I guess this is my question. For a number of our high school students have been fully vaccinated and then gone beyond that, the 2 weeks after the second vaccine. Are they still considered close contacts then, if they're within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, if fully vaccinated plus 2?
So the way this works is, if you are within 6 feet, you are still labeled as for up to 15 minutes over the 24-hour period, you are still called a close contact. However, if you have been vaccinated, as long as you're not if you're vaccinated, then you don't necessarily have to quarantine. And we ask each individual to talk through their cases, because there are exceptions to every rule, but in general, they should talk to the nurse to make sure that would apply to them. And the other change to the CDC guidelines and the DESE guidelines is, if you are within 6 feet and are identified as a close contact, unless you are below 3 feet, you do not have to quarantine. So even though they're still calling close contacts under 6 feet, you only quarantine if you are under 3 feet.
Thank you very much. So yet another reason to go get vaccinated too.
Absolutely. And if we can get vaccines into the majority of our 12-year-old students and up, we will absolutely get to that herd immunity a lot sooner, and then greater things to come in our future in the next months.
Thank you.
Lynn Bullard did send out communication yesterday, today. It's one of these it was this week with the updated information, and it's also been updated on the district homepage on the COVID dashboard. So, you know, I know people, the thought isn't to always look there, but I know for sure that Lynn is putting all her updates there even before she gets a communication out to us. So just, you know, as a reminder to everyone, check out there as well.
Yeah, and I know, I mean, we are getting things up hot off the press as quickly as possible, but as you know, it's just moving so fast. Sorry about the light again. And it just changes so abruptly that people just can't keep up, and it's very confusing. So I understand where all the questions come from.
So I am moving the agenda item for school choice seats to the 20th. I needed to give Mr. Boudet some time to actually work on that information, but he has been otherwise working on some other things for us at the moment. But transportation update, Keith, is this you? No? Okay, Susan?
I don't know that, I don't remember putting that on, so I think it was something that might have been left from another agenda.
Are we changing the bus schedules a little bit?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. She put
traffic?
Yes, sorry, thank you. I was thinking it was more school start times because of the bus schedule. Yes, that's what threw me off. So I did ask this to go on because of the fact that we have a slight adjustment that we believe we need to make, because this year, as you know, when we went back all in, we had to adjust our times and shorten the schedule at the high school and middle school by 10 minutes because our buses with the new schedules with COVID, we just couldn't make that time work. But we were able to think about next year and try to adjust more carefully, and it would have to take a vote of school committee. Of course, it's so dark in this room, I can't see what the number, I have my times here. So we're asking to adjust Placentino's start time, which is currently 8:50 to 3:15, and push it forward to 9 o'clock and end at 3:25 by 10 minutes, because we're really struggling to get the buses back from the high school to Placentino and to get our students home and not be waiting at school longer. So that would be a 10-minute adjustment and increase the time from 9 to 3:25 from 8:50 to 3:15. And the only other change, and again, this is still a little guesswork because the bus schedule is going to look differently for next year as well. And we still might come back to adjust slightly. We're trying to minimize changes to all of the buildings. But what we're also finding is the buses leaving the middle school, there's a 10-minute difference between the middle school end time and the high school end time. And when they're leaving the middle school, they're getting bogged down and they can't get to the high school in a timely manner. So that then throws off the high school dismissal, which further throws off the Placentino dismissal. So what we're going to ask to do is just to adjust by 5 minutes at the middle school. So the times for next year would be 8:05 to 2:28. And that way, because right now it would have been 8:10 to 2:33 was the original time last year. So just to push it back by 5 minutes, we think even though it's only 5 minutes, that 5 minutes might just give us enough of a gap to then get the buses out of middle school over to the Holliston High School, get them out of Holliston High School in a timely manner. And then with the 10-minute adjustment in Placentino, that should offset us enough to get our little ones out of school and get them off home in the afternoon.
I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering whether I don't think the buses are full. Are they, Mr. Boudet? Like, I think that's part of it. Is that, like, you know, my kids would normally take the bus and they're not. So I'm just wondering whether that's really a function of less people are taking the bus, and that's why we're having the backlog of people who can't maneuver around Woodland Street campus.
While that is true that the buses are not filled and people did not want to, you know, change their behaviors with, you know, 70 days left in the school year, whatever the number was. One of the issues that we will continue to have, though, is the fact that there isn't enough time between the high school dismissal and the Placentino to, even under normal circumstances, because the buses are getting out on the road decently once they leave the high school. The problem is they can't get to the high school. and we've already moved that 10 minutes. So I've got no more room to move. We're shortening the day at the high school by 10 minutes. So we can't continue to do that. So that's going to go back 10 minutes more. So even if you assume more people take the bus, that will suck that 10 minutes right up. And now I'm dealing with the same issue that I won't be able to get to Placentino in time. I mean, think of it that way.
Can we change the process at Rams where the students who are taking the buses get dismissed and get on the bus first, and anyone else pick up or whatever, even the walkers, like hold them back a little bit, because it is a real cluster right now for sure.
Now, I thought he told us he was holding the cars back until the buses got out.
He is. What's happening at the middle school is we're stacking the cars, the majority of the cars behind the building right now, and feeding them through the emergency roadway that comes off of Linden Street. As much as we could try to do that, again, we try to move the children who are not taking a bus away from that area. It's just middle school kids. I've always had a frustration with regards to getting them on buses. They're little social butterflies at time, and they just need to, hang out a little bit. I mean, Peter can talk to this a little too. That, again, they're out of school. They want to visit their friends who aren't in their class or on their team or whatever. And, it's just part of the thing of being in middle school. So we viewed the extra 5 minutes as being a critical component of being able to get across onto Hollis Street and then up Hollis Street before people start leaving the high school. Because the problem that we're encountering now, and this would happen regardless of the number of people, because it was happening last year, is the cars are stacking up to head out of the high school and get stuck on Hollis Street. So Hollis Street backs up. So I can't get the buses. The buses are not able to get to the high school. So if we picked up that 5 minutes, if I can get the buses to the high school, it's easy to stop the people leaving to get the buses off of campus. We've done that. I've done it personally once. So that's not the issue there. It's getting them to the high school. So we're hoping the 5 minutes at the middle school will get us to the high school before people start leaving the high school.
Dawn?
I agree, Keith, that a little more time would help, but there's another part to this, I think. And our high school parking lot, I brave this every day from the middle school up to the high school. By the time you get up there, kids are pouring out, but we have two exits that are used both as entrance and exit at the same time. I mean, have we ever looked at the high school and tried to, or I guess what I would say is, could we look at the high school and see if we could come up with a more sensible traffic pattern? Like one exit entrance is used as an exit and one exit entrance is used as an entrance only. The only reason I say that is it almost creates a deadlock situation. You have new drivers, your kids walking to cars, you have parents pouring in to try and get into the parking lot while people are pouring out of both exits. And then your buses like deadlocked. Can we also look at what the traffic, if there's a different, more creative way to do traffic in that parking lot?
I can certainly entertain that with our local safety officials. The challenge that I think we're going to have, regardless, is it's just sheer volume. There's right now, because we didn't do any parking passes this year, so anybody can basically park. We're dealing with 200 student cars. Teachers are a little bit later than that, but 200 student cars add in probably on the order of 75 to 100 parent cars. And again, regardless of any logic you try to put to it, there may not be enough exit volume to be able to just direct them to a singular exit as opposed to multiple exits. I keep hoping that maybe somebody's going to get creative and allow their children to walk down to the golf course or out to Mark Tree or to across the street, to the street. There's whether it be Mellon or the new street there, Liberty. I just, I'm hoping there's going to be some creativity coming, but I haven't seen it yet. People seem to not mind sitting in traffic. So
Well, I think also it's hard because people aren't carpooling. Like I would normally figure out something to carpool with my neighbors, but my kids are literally eating their breakfast in the car. So I feel like I can't, have some other people that are not part of my family in my car until everybody's vaccinated. So, yeah. So is this change going to be that the middle school starts at 8:05, but the high school starts at 8:10?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 5 minutes at the middle school for the adjustment and 10 minutes at Placentino.
Would
Now,
it be, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, does this put Placentino to 3:25? Yes, which was the time before we combined the high school, middle school run.
Yeah, it was original.
That was, so we had that for many years, from 98 when we opened Placentino through 2002 when we combined the two runs. So again, at some level, if we're able to move it, we will. We just don't want to set an expectation at this point going into it that we're not sure we can meet. And I think it's easier to make adjustments that benefit people than harm people, or not harm, but you know what I'm saying. They would view it the negative.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't put have the high school dismiss at 2:28 instead of Rams? Because then wouldn't the buses, oh no, because you have the Miller run.
And they have longer instructional hours.
Right. The high school's a longer day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the high school is already 5 minutes. It would be 2:43 would be the dismissal for them. So if we pushed it back 5 minutes, it'd be 2:38. But they didn't feel that would make a difference. It's really about getting the buses from the middle school to the high school, then they get them out quickly and go to Placentino.
Okay.
And I think I know the answer to this, but it doesn't impact that late bus that we used to be able to offer for after-school activities to middle school, and which I'm hopeful comes back next year. But that won't impact that, correct?
In theory, correct. And I'm not playing games with words there. It's until we have a full view on the timing of things. We're going to be challenged with the late bus regardless, because the late bus times are now going to run into athletic bus times. And truthfully, our vendor only has so many drivers. So, it's going to be snug. I mean, I'm not going to lie. And I'm not sure what wins the day between a late bus or an athletic bus, if that's what we have to make a call on.
Is there any way to do this without jeopardizing the late bus for those kids that need after-school help or want to participate in a club?
Yeah, that would really be moving even Miller back 10 more minutes, and we don't want to do that because they're already starting so early. And then we'd have to adjust everything additional 10 minutes.
The issue is going to come about at what time athletics starts is what it is, actually. So if athletics stays at their typical 3:30-ish time frame, as opposed to playing more night games during the week, it's going to be very snug. I'm not sure how many drivers. We have our 3 extra drivers, so we'll have 3 available buses, but it'll be a question of whether we use them for later for athletics. If athletics goes off at 4:30 or something instead, they'd probably be able to do the late run and then go do the athletics run after that. But if everybody's trying to leave at the same time, potentially, especially if it's like a JV football game or something where they do take multiple buses, whether Holmes can meet the need for 5 or 6 buses, I just don't know.
So would that mean just one late bus for those middle school kids and high school kids that need extra help? Or are we saying there might not be any? Because then I'm a little concerned and want more information.
I can't determine that at this point in time. It's going to be. Now we're also just we're not obligated to stay with our existing vendor for those extra runs. I mean, we do have we'll have an opportunity to, if he can't meet those needs, is to go to a different vendor. It's just that it'll be probably more costly, but but that will be an option. So.
Okay. So tonight, Susan, you want us to vote on changing sometimes?
Yeah, I'd like you to adjust a vote to adjust the middle school start time to 8:05 from 8:10, and Placentino to push them 10 minutes later from 8:50 to 9:00 a.m. But the end times would also change accordingly.
I guess I would just want to ask, is this something we could get more information from, whether it's to talk with the athletic director and get a sense of whether we can be flexible with the athletic schedules? Because I don't want to jeopardize the late bus for kids who need extra help and want to participate in those clubs. You know, I am so hopeful that we'll be able to bring that back.
This isn't dealing with this time change.
Okay. It is two separate things. So yes, we can get more information on and talk further on that topic. But the issue is the ability to get kids back without them having bogged down and stuck in traffic or staying later at school. And then we don't have coverage for it because we don't have people doing duties at that time of the day at the end of the day.
Okay.
When is this time change effective?
For the fall.
Oh, for the fall. Okay. So this won't change.
No, I just wanted to get it out, you know, sooner than later so parents are aware of it, because the more people will forget anyhow, but to have that documented and then we'll communicate that out so that people are aware.
Okay.
Any further questions? Catherine?
I just was wondering, someone said we don't know what time sports are coming back, whether it's like the 3:30 area or the 4:30 area. When would we find that out?
It's going to be it's really a call's the wrong word. It's really when the teams that we play, when we have an away game, would be setting their game times. So while it may be a league rule, and I'll check with Matt Baker on this, while it may be a league thing that they all agree to do it at 5:30 or 5 or whatever, because so many schools are changing their high school start times, or if it's done on a case-by-case basis, it's going to be dependent on the schedule. So,
no, of course. I'm saying, do you know when will we know?
I don't know if they've actually even had a chance to talk about next year, because as you know, the seasons have gotten pushed out so much further. So we're just trying to keep up with today right now. So we'll certainly reach out to Matt and find out what the next schedule is. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have an update of some sort related to that.
Okay.
So Susan, would you be comfortable? Can we move the vote then to the 20th as well? Just so.
That's fine. But regardless of the sports, we're going to run into that issue either way on the
No,
school.
absolutely. No, absolutely. But this way it's more of a total.
That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So thank you for that heads up. And, you know, just a reminder to families, especially at the middle school and high school level, there are the safe routes to school where there are opportunities for you to pick up your children other than the front door or back door of the schools. So if they're able to meet you at the golf course or meet you at Coffee Haven or, you know, Lowland Industrial Park, whatever, towards that end. I don't mean the actual industrial park. You know, please try and do that because the traffic is quite considerable. And you know, I know that the police department certainly they have multiple officers who are out trying to direct traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So we will get through this. Lisa Koshin, you shared a newsletter with us. Do you want to share your screen?
Oh, sure. So this assumes, Keith, would we be able to get the new deck online tomorrow? You're unmuted.
Yeah, no, Anne Louise would have to get it to me. She sent us an email. She sent us an email without an attachment.
Yeah, and copy Dan McLeod. That way he'll see it, hopefully.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Oh no, I'll put it up.
Okay.
I'll do it tonight.
I sent the email without the attachment. Excellent. Let me just send it again.
Okay. So Anne Louise will get that up, and then yes, I can share my screen. Give me 1 second to pull up the Google Doc because I have that open on my other screen. 2 screens going. All right, so now I can share my screen. Oh, wait, oh yeah, I can. Okay, there's the share screen button. I think I'm almost there. All right, can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. This is very short and sweet. So this would go out in our typical newsletter format. Dan sends it out with the, we have all of our stock language at the bottom, that has our names and emails and all that kind of stuff. So this would just be, very quickly, town meeting. We can give it a little, we can give it a bit of a headline. We don't have to say it this way. Okay, so we have town meeting starts Monday, May 10th, 7:30. Town meeting voters have the power to approve all budgets, including the school budget. Come see Direct Democracy in Action. And then this is where I was going to put in the link to the new deck. For a summary of the school committee's recommended budget, please visit our website. I just took these bullet points from our previous newsletter on the budget, but with I updated a little bit based on the deck, just so we have some content here. And then I linked to, right here, I put in the link to the town website. This shows you all the information about town meeting, including the warrants and the FinCom's report, all the standard stuff, and the time and the place, everything you need to attend town meeting. So, and I would make the font, I would clean up the bad font and all of that. I just did this really, really, really quick because I wanted us to have something to send out to link to the budget.
I think this is great, Lisa.
Lisa?
And Louise.
Yeah, just no, it's really minor, but really minor. Can you just, in your bulleted list, put technology at the bottom? And I don't know if it matters, but in the way it just sort of looks like priorities. But the only other question I had, the public health, I don't remember that in our other newsletter. I'm sure it was there, but
yeah, these are the titles we use. That was for nursing. And, my hope is that people will go to the...
Okay, that was for nursing. All right. Then totally fine. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I literally just copied and pasted I added, I updated them, but most of these came from the newsletter we sent out in like February or March when we first had a budget. And each one of these had a lot more description to them, but at this point, we would rather have people go to the deck than, reiterate or regurgitate all that description from the previous newsletter.
That's good. It's great. And then the only other thing I was going to suggest, but it's minor, is local democracy in action.
Oh, no, direct democracy. I researched a whole article at the Globe on this. Fun fact, New England town meeting is the only form of direct democracy in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, can you back me up on this? Our civics expert?
Yeah, when it's like ours where anyone can participate. If it's a representative town meeting, it's a little bit different, but absolutely, you are correct.
Yep. So, yeah.
Purest form of government.
Dates back to Rome. So, yeah, that's why I worded it that way.
You. Learn something new every day. Any other further questions, suggestions, comments? Okay, is there a motion to approve the May 7th, 2021 newsletter as provided this evening?
So moved by Anne.
Second by Dawn.
By Anne Louise, seconded by Dawn. All in favor. Mrs. Listevnik.
Yes.
Ms. Koshin.
Yes.
Ms. Hanstead. I think that was a yes. Ms. Naborski.
Yes.
Mr. Morton.
Yes.
Dr. Savard.
Yes.
Mrs. Raffi, yes. That is a go. Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, May 20th. We will have a discussion about school choice seats. We will continue our discussion about transportation and a vote to change start times for the 2021-2022 school year. And I'm sure we will add some other agenda items as well. I don't have any further thoughts on that at the moment. At this time, I will entertain a motion to move back into executive session for the purposes of collective bargaining strategy with the HFT teachers unit, for which we are not returning.
Moved by Dawn.
Seconded by Cynthia.
By Dawn, seconded by Cynthia. Roll call vote. Mrs. Listevnik?
Yes.
Dr. Savard?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Sorry, yes.
Ms. Hanstead? Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Mr. Morton?
Yes.
Mrs. Raffi? Yes. It is 8:35. This meeting is now adjourned. We look forward to seeing everyone at town meeting Monday, May 10th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Holliston High School auditorium. Thank you and good night all.
Good night.